if you want to open a bar because you want to make a lot of money, open up a dive bar. It's a busy dive bar, but open up a dive bar.
Yeah.
It's mostly just shots.
It is, and it like we were saying
and your
earlier,
overhead is
right.
Your liquor overhead.
Yes, because you can get the really cheap, bottles of liquor, and then you charge, like $7 for the shot, and it costs them like 13 cents, and it's just if you want a big headache, but a creative outlet, then go the craft cocktail.
We're back for yet another episode of the Best of Midland Texas podcast. We haven't been canceled yet.
Not yet.
Which is perfect. On this podcast, we talk about the best of Midland Texas. Entrepreneurs, business owners, local personalities, talking about their life, their loves, their losses, and their businesses in the best city in the world.
In the Permian Basin, for sure.
In the world and the Permian Basin. 100, top notch. I am Ryan Shewchuk. This is, if you can believe it, it's my stunning wife.
Right.
Terra Avery.
Hello.
We have a guest today.
Yeah.
We have a heavy hitter.
Yeah.
We have I'm going to go ahead and say top shelf guest.
I would say so too.
You know what I'm saying?
Premium
connoisseur.
Yes.
Erica Mann, co-owner of the Blue Door. You know it. You know the Blue Door. You've spent many a night at the Blue Door.
So, as Ryan just said, Erica is one of the owners of Midland's original cocktail bar, the Blue Door. When she's not creating fabulous cocktails with her staff, she's advocating for the control of the overwhelming stray cat population in Midland and surrounding areas, I feel like, but doing so in a humane way. Erica, we so appreciate all your efforts and the way you really try to educate others in the process. Before we get into the trap neuter release program, though, let's talk about booze.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
We know you're super busy. I mean, you run a bar. Yeah. We are not going to keep you here for 6-7 hours. We're feed you Red Bulls, but we really do appreciate you being on. And
no, I appreciate the invitation. I listen to tons of podcasts. I've seen podcasts like Crime Junkie's my favorite.
Oh, okay.
Seeing that one being taped in Austin, and so now it's coming full circle. I think I'm hitting all of the bases for podcasts. Thanks for having me.
Are you a big true crime?
Absolutely. Yeah, if I'm cleaning, if I'm cooking, it's true crime that I'm listening to.
That's what I put on to go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Forensic Files puts us to sleep.
But I love it.
I do too. It's oddly calming, and I've Googled it to make sure,
that you're not a sociopath.
Am I okay? I think we're okay.
So let's just talk about this now before we even get into this, because I'm thirsty and this really looks really good. So, what did you bring for us today?
I brought you one of my absolute favorite cocktails. It is called a Vodka, and it is was created in New Orleans around the 1940s.
Okay.
It was created at the Hotel Monteleone. There's a bar on the ground floor called the Carousel Bar, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a carousel, so you sit and it looks like an old-fashioned carousel. And so this is their signature drink, and it is a blend of equal parts rye, sweet vermouth, cognac, and then there's a bit of Benedictine, and then 2 types of bitters. There is Peychaud's bitters and Angostura bitters.
What's a Peychaud's bitters?
It's a bitters that is, it's very kind of floral as compared to Angostura, which is more of has more spice undertones, and so it's more of floral bitters. And it is the essential bitters if you're making a Sazerac. Okay. So if you were to make a Sazerac and use Angostura bitters, you would need to call it something else because they are very rigid about the rules about making a Sazerac. The Sazerac is actually the official cocktail of New Orleans. People think it's a hurricane.
Yeah, that was a hand grenade.
Or a hand grenade, yes, exactly. But it is actually the Sazerac. And so the Vodka has 2 types of bitters, 2 types of spirits, sweet vermouth, and then a Benedictine. And people's go-to tends to be, say, like an old-fashioned or a Manhattan, and it has those components to it as far as being a super spirit-forward cocktail.
Okay.
It's mainly just booze. But to me, because of the components in it, especially the Benedictine and then the 2 bitters, it's a lot more, there's more depth to it and a more complex flavor profile. And so this cocktail is something that when someone comes to us and they are, say, like a Crown and Coke type whiskey Coke drinker, but they're trusting us enough to give them something new. This is typically what we will serve them. And it's just kind of a cocktail that they probably never thought that they would drink before, but it's 9.9 out of 10 times. It's a success.
Well, what is Benedictine?
Yeah, I thought he was the host. He's on Sherlock Holmes, right?
I don't know if he's on Sherlock Holmes.
I thought he was a traitor. I don't know.
It's a Benedictine is a French liqueur. And so the difference between a liqueur and a liquor is going to be things like vodka, gin, rum, very high proof, high alcohol, no sugar or low sugar. And then a liqueur is also called a cordial. And so that's things like any sort of peach or pear or Chambord, those kind of things. They're lower in alcohol content, but higher in sugar content.
So they're sweet.
Yes. Yeah. And so Benedictine
is like grenadine?
Grenadine is more of a syrup.
Oh, that's
right,
not,
because there's not any alcohol.
Chambord
Exactly. But they serve the same purpose in a cocktail. Like if you do a grenadine, it's to sweeten that cocktail. If you add a cordial or a liqueur,
when I hit my
it's to sweeten
Shirley
it.
Temples.
Yeah.
I'm like, extra grenadine.
Yeah. So Benedictine is made by Benedictine monks in France. And so it is brandy-based, but it's very herbaceous. There's something like, I don't have the number right, like 133 different herbs and root like barks, and only 2 monks at a time know the official recipe.
Wow.
And then when one's on his deathbed, then you've got to give that recipe to the next guy
in line.
Yeah.
The Dalai Lama of
Yes.
booze. So, first of all, how do you, I don't want to say how do you spell this, but how do you say this drink again? Because I wouldn't even know how to order it.
Vue Carré.
Vue Carré.
There you go. Perfect.
Vue Carré.
Carré. Okay.
And that is actually one of the reasons that I believe that this cocktail is so underrated and hasn't really caught on, because if people see it on a menu and they don't know how to pronounce it, they're nervous to try it. And then I think also, you don't know how to pronounce it, and then you're looking at the ingredients, and there's a lot of them, and some of them are unfamiliar. And, like with an old-fashioned, whiskey, sugar, bitters, okay, I get that, know. But with the Vue Carré, I think it could be a bit intimidating, but it's actually a very approachable cocktail for the style. And so I think we started making those in 2013 because in New Orleans, they have Tales of the Cocktail. They have it every summer. It's just a huge cocktail conference. Why they decided to have a conference in the middle of the summer in New Orleans is lost on me, but that's when it is. And so we used to go to those for quite a few years, and we would take some of our bartenders there. Nice. And so New Orleans is it's really close to our heart as far as cocktail culture. Because again, like we were saying, people tend to think of New Orleans as being Bourbon Street, and you're just there for a bachelor party to get right, exactly, yes. But I believe outside of possibly San Francisco, but I still think New Orleans beats it. It just has the best cocktail culture and like traditional cocktail culture.
I've never been to New Orleans, so
I think you guys would dig it the most.
I love New Orleans. Yeah,
it's wonderful.
If you go again, we're not bartenders, but
we'll tag along.
Yeah, if you want to bring some podcast
he'll
hosts,
make some great content for y'all.
Yeah, for sure.
Content trip. All right. We can write that off.
All right.
Absolutely.
Bring out the hand grenades. Okay, you're not having the same thing. This is something else.
Right. I'm just having a little bit of wine in case I need to go into work tonight. And so I need to, yeah.
I like your style. Okay.
So you're just trying to get us drunk.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, perfect.
All right, well, it's not going to take much. Let's have a little sippy here.
Who knows where this is
Cheers, guys.
I can't read.
All right. So
Gotta smell it first.
there's a cherry in it. I already know. I like it.
Ooh.
Okay.
Cherry and then a bit of lemon oil.
A little ASMR.
Oh, wow.
There's not. That's just all booze.
That's it. There's not any syrups, no juices, nothing like that.
My kind of cocktail.
Yeah, let's just get straight to the point. That's the way I like to drink.
So you opened the Blue Door 10 years ago in 2012 as a passion project. Passionate about opening a business, passionate about owning a bar. Like, give us the whole story.
I'd say more passionate. Like, we already owned businesses. We had, I think, 3 Eskimo huts at the time.
Oh, okay.
So I think having that experience, there was some comfort level for sure going into this venture, but it was more passion about the craft.
Okay.
Prior to, I think, kind of this cocktail renaissance that really started about 20 years ago, but that I became more familiar with probably 13, 14 years ago. Prior to that, I was just into food. And
Okay.
like all of my travels were centered around the food scene. As soon as the plane ticket was booked, I was checking out the recipes. But that was like even pre-Pinterest. I had like a binder with clippings that I would take out of like Food and Wine or Bon Appetit.
Yeah,
So
in real life Pinterest.
Yes, exactly. I remember the first bar that I went to where I realized that cocktails can be something that's not just, I like this liquor with tonic or
Not just like a
Sprite.
vodka soda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was at the Starlight Room in San Francisco.
Nice.
And I had never heard of Saint Germain before. That's just, I mean, it's so standard now, but at the time I was having to kind of like look it up, like what is this? And it was, I think, my first experience with the cocktail list. And so that just blew me away that you
Right.
could basically do with cocktails what you were doing with food. And so, yes, it was more of a passion of just working with new ingredients and new spirits, and it was all new to me. And so that was really exciting to see what was available and get to experiment. And I wanted to bring that to Midland, because at that time, the bar scene was not nearly as robust as it is now. It was mainly, sports bars and dive bars, and I love both of those. They have their total time and place, but I felt that that I could really channel kind of my creative energy
Absolutely.
into a cocktail bar.
Yeah. I love that.
When did you come to Midland? How long have you been here?
I've been here 20 years.
Okay. Okay. And where are you from originally?
Houston,
Okay.
and then San Antonio, and then here. And so it was a huge culture shock when I moved here. And Midland was a lot different 2 decades ago.
Absolutely.
And and I came kind of like kicking and screaming and with really a bad attitude, and you still see people with those bad attitudes today. I think I had more of a reason because there was a lot less.
And coming from big cities with
Right.
lots of culture and nightlife, and even just like you could pop into, like, we have some good museums here, but it wasn't like the options that you have in those larger
Right,
cities.
and Wagner Noel wasn't here, and that was really a game changer in Midland. But yeah, like I was still a brat, and I still, was just kind of, I didn't have my eyes wide open, and that has changed dramatically over the last decade or so. And yes, Midland has changed, but I think that I've changed,
Yeah.
and I realize that there's good anywhere you are. You just have to find it. And now I find myself being incredibly annoyed when people say there's nothing to do here, because there's plenty to do
so
here.
much to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And especially for a community that is this size and that is so far removed from other larger cities. What we have here, I think we're spoiled for choice. And yeah, I'm really proud of, it's the people that made this happen. It's the
Yeah.
people that are willing to kind of like stick their necks out there and try businesses that maybe others were telling them would never work. And they did it, and now people are seeing that happen, and so we're having more and more choices.
I love that.
Where did the name come from, Blue Door?
So that came from a trip, I want to say that was maybe 2 years prior, to Turkey. And so in Turkey, I was absolutely obsessed with the blue doors. The shops had blue doors, the homes had blue doors everywhere. And it was that vibrant blue that is the color that we have. And like most of my photos from that Turkey trip were blue doors and cats, because that's the first experience that I had with like kind of like a T&R and seeing that in action. So yeah, when we were trying to come up with a name, everything we were coming up just seemed so like trying to be too hip, and just really wanting to steer away from that.
Yeah.
Because we're in West Texas, and I wanted it to be something approachable. I didn't want it to have like this kind of this very narrow market that would make people feel like they couldn't come in if they weren't dressed a certain way.
Gotcha.
Right.
And what I liked about the Blue Door is that I felt that it could be an image as far as branding and marketing, where people could just see that image and would automatically know
Where it is.
what it is and where it is and what it's about. And then I just started researching, because I like to know the why. Yeah. Like, why are there blue doors everywhere? And it's supposed to bring prosperity. I thought, well, that's good, right?
Yeah.
New business, prosperity. And it's supposed to ward off evil spirits. Like, that's good too, right? I don't want that.
Yeah.
So it just kind of seemed that it fit all of the marks that I had. Yeah.
Is it specific to Turkey, or is it a?
I think that there's probably a Mediterranean
Okay.
kind of aspect to it, but that's the only place that I like. That's where I was introduced to
Your
it.
Pinterest board was all blue doors.
All blue doors.
It can't.
So in 2018, I came to Midland for the first time to go to Terra's, I'll say, 5-year high school reunion. Wink.
Times 4.
She was like, all right, we're going to go to Midland. This is where I, grew up, went to school. We went to a football game the first night.
We did
I think
go
it was
to
the
the
night
Friday
before.
night, yeah.
She was like, you're about to see some football.
Like
this
some
is.
Friday
You were
Night
getting the
Lights.
West Texas.
I was like,
I dig it.
I was
I'm
like,
like, have
oh.
you seen Varsity Blues?
I was like the whipped cream scene. Yeah, I saw that one. I was,
Yeah, just like that. Just like that.
And that's what I wore to the game.
I was like, man, I'm ready. I wore whipped cream. It was cool. And after that game, we actually ended up at the Blue Door. So the Blue Door was technically the first bar I ever visited or ever drank at
I love that.
in Midland, Texas.
I love that.
I walked in, I was like, this is this is Vegas-y.
Nice,
It's
nice.
dark. And I was like, okay, walked up to the bar and I was like, I don't remember what I ordered, obviously. It was probably old fashioned, I'll be honest with you.
Probably.
And I was like, okay, they got a patio and everything. You don't even have patios in Vegas, but I was like,
'Cause it's too
this
hot.
is this was my vibe immediately. So I was like, okay, if we come back here, we didn't know that 2 years later, we'd be
Yeah,
moving.
we had no idea.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that you say that because that's really our target audience, if I were to narrow it down when we opened, was very much for transplants. Because especially in 2012, Midland was booming. And
Okay.
oil prices were about the same as they are right now, but the climate was very different. That boom was different. Like Midland was we were having a good time.
Yeah.
And we had so many people from Dallas and Houston and Denver that had moved here. And we just knew that was something that they were going to be hungry for.
Gotcha.
Was something that kind of felt, pretty ubiquitous. And like you're saying, it's just normal to have this type of a bar in Vegas. But in Midland,
yeah.
it was lacking.
Yeah. It's almost like the bar that bartenders go to
Sure.
after their shift.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Yes, I do.
These are the places, it's same with chefs, right? Like chefs go to certain places after shift, they know I'm going to get the best stuff and have those great conversations. And I was like, okay, this is a place where people who know cocktails drink.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Like I was living 1,800 miles away in 2012, and I would get phone calls from like friends and stuff, and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, Midland just got this like new bar. It's so nice to go somewhere where it's not like loud and smoky and not the typical thing that you're used to out here." But they also did kind of say that like the price point's going to be a little bit higher, but it's totally worth it.
What your friends were saying was definitely something that we were a little bit nervous about, where we were confident that there was a market for it.
Yeah.
But we did know that especially people who were from Midland and maybe hadn't traveled outside to other cities and been to these bars yet, that there were going to be some things that might be a little jarring for them at first. And so that the price point is one of those things that we knew was going to be different than kind of like a typical bar at the time. I was okay with that because I felt that they would try the drinks and that they would end up getting it and they would understand. And then another thing that, we were the only non-smoking bar in Midland at the time.
Yeah.
And so that was a challenge at first too, because people just insisted that it was impossible to have a non-smoking bar. But I also knew that there might be some resistance or shock when we bring you at that time, it was like $8, $9 drinks. You would bring them that cocktail and it's going to be in a small glass. And
right.
they're used to going to places where it comes in
Like a pint glass.
a pint glass,
Yeah.
right? But what they're not understanding is that, yes, that glass is 16 ounces, but that's not 16 ounces of alcohol.
Right.
It's about 14 and a half ounces of syrup and juices and all of those kinds of things. Whereas with our cocktails, or just the style of cocktails, it's much more about the spirit and the stuff that you're paying for.
Yeah.
It's much more about that. And so there's not as much filler. And so, yes, the drink is smaller, but you're going to feel
With those big drinks, it's
Very
like
good.
90% ice.
It's going to get you there. It's going to get
it's
you
going
there
to get you
quicker.
there. That's exactly right.
So
And
you're really getting more bang for your buck.
Yes, you are. And then there's also just that yes, you could go get this vodka soda for $4 at this bar, but that bottle of vodka that they're pouring costs them $8.
Yeah.
And we don't have any of those products. We never have. It's always been
That just makes me cringe.
stuff
to
that
think
you
of.
would know. Right. It was a really needing to trust the process.
Yeah.
And to know that you're going to get feedback. I can't tell you, for the first probably year, the thing I heard the most was, do you know what you should do? Do you know what you should do?
Yeah.
And you just have to listen, because sometimes they're right. You know what I mean? But still just stay really focused on the vision.
Yeah.
And then just believing and trusting that people are going to appreciate it. And they did.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't take that long. I think that it helped when other bars with similar-ish concepts started opening, and then it started to become kind of normal for places to have cocktail menus. And so now this is quite normal for everyone, and it's not surprising anymore. But at the time, there was a bit of probably sticker shock and size shock and those sorts of things.
What was the time frame of coming up with, like, okay, we want to open a bar, to like actually opening the doors?
Maybe 10 months, which
Okay.
is not much at all. Right. So we decided in 2011, we went to Portugal. And we were on this we were at a small little coastal town called Salema. Only one bar. And so we would go to this Bar Aventura. They're still open. And it was owned by a couple, Carl and Zoe. They're a British couple. And so there was only one bar. We went there. So we went there every night. But we wanted to go there every night because it was good drinks. It wasn't these, we created these cocktails menu, but it was a menu of well-made classics.
Okay, right.
And so we enjoyed going there, and we got to know the owners well. And, you know, I think almost every couple at some point says they want to open a bar, because that just sounds like
We've
fun.
said that a number.
It sounds so much fun. And so we had done that for probably quite a few years, especially when you're like 3 drinks deep.
Oh, yeah.
You definitely want to open a bar.
That's when you have the best ideas.
Yes, exactly. So, we're just sitting there with Carl and Zoe, and we just thought, you know, like, they're people. We're people. They opened a bar. Open a bar. And so we originally actually planned for it to be open by April. So that would have just been probably 6 or 7 months. But construction, you know how that goes. And so we ended up opening in July. So less than a year.
Even knowing you were coming on the show, I was like, I really want to pick her brain about what it takes to open a bar. Because I feel like if I just landed on some sort of foreign beach destination and I was like, I don't even know what I want to do, I feel like I would go, I don't know, I would just want to be a bartender and talk with expats and tourists all day, and it'd be the best thing in the world.
I
Like,
could see you doing that.
He would be so good at it.
yeah, I'd be like, yeah, let's.
I'd be like, babe, we gotta go.
Just say, don't let go of that dream. Maybe not now, but at some point.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I tell people is, if you want to open a bar because you want to make a lot of money, open up a dive bar. It's a busy dive bar, but open up a dive bar.
Yeah.
it's mostly just shots.
It is, and it like we were saying
And your
earlier,
overhead is
right.
your liquor overhead.
Yes, because you can get the really cheap, bottles of liquor, and then you charge, like $7 for the shot, and it costs them like 13 cents. And it's just, if you want a big headache, but a creative outlet, then go the craft cocktail, because it's a much more difficult operation to run. The overhead is so much higher because the expectation is higher. The expectation with the ingredients, your glassware is going to be more expensive. You can't just let things get run down or break and ignore them for a while. They need to be fixed because people expect that, and so there's a lot more. If this were a dive bar, I would have been able to step away.
Yeah.
Probably 9 years ago, but I do feel that with this kind of place, there needs to be much more of an owner presence.
Yeah, a hands-on approach.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
You'll often host fundraisers for different organizations like Fix West Texas. How often do you host these events?
We do organized fundraisers typically once a quarter.
Okay.
And so our last one was for Fix, and that was, I think, in July when we did our luau for the dogs. And so we're going to do another one in October. So it'll be a yappy hour, but it'll be an Oktoberfest yappy hour. I'll start promoting that pretty soon, because I was blown away by the costumes that all of the dogs were wearing at the luau. And so I just feel like the parents are going to be very extra with Oktoberfest.
We got to get our dog a
costumes.
costume.
Lederhosen for Fox? All right.
I support this decision so much. It's going to be so much fun. And
Start looking now.
Yeah.
we're already
You'll love
getting
it.
our Oktoberfest beers. I mean, Will has ordered some, and so that we'll have those stocked. It's gonna be a good time. So we do them about once a quarter, but we will usually, anytime there is another event happening, if there's a way to kind of organically add a fundraiser into it, we will as well. Just like our 10-year. That wasn't specifically a fundraiser, but I just thought, okay, a lot of people are going to come. A lot of people are seeing this, so we may as well throw some donations in there. And it's just so easy for me to do it as far as making the decision to do it and being motivated to do it, just because Midland shows up every single time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so why not do these fundraisers? Because I know when I ask, it's never mattered in 10 years what I've asked for as far as donations and for what cause it is. They always show up and always provide. And so I really appreciate, I think that is probably one of the things that made me embrace Midland more than when I was being kind of a baby cry about the whole thing. You know, I realized like, you just need to stop because this is a really good community.
We've got big hearts here.
Yeah.
I mean, you did a fundraiser for the victims of the Uvalde shooting.
Yes.
Y'all did the Stand Up for Ukraine. Like, I love your passion for Fix West Texas.
Well, explain Fix West Texas for our 17 million YouTube subscribers out there who may or may not know what that is.
Fix West Texas is the answer. It's the solution to a problem that I've been aware of for probably about the last 15 years. And that is just the overwhelming amount of unwanted dogs and cats in Midland. And people just, unless they're put in a situation where they find a dog or a cat and they're trying to find a rescue that takes it, they don't understand how kind of tragic it is because there's not a space for them. The shelters are overrun. And, you know, like the dogs and cats that are completely healthy and friendly are being put down on a daily basis. And we cannot adopt this problem. We can't out-rescue this problem. There's not enough space. And so the only solution outside of just rounding up all of these animals and euthanizing them is to stop the reproduction. Yeah. And that is what Karen Patterson has done with Fix West Texas. She has like just created the kind of like our last hope in a way by providing not just mass spays and neuters, but doing it affordably. And that's the problem that we had prior, is that most humans want to do the right thing. Most animal owners want to do the right thing. It's just out of their budgets because a spay or neuter for a dog can run you $500, $600, $700 easily. And that just should not be, it can't be the case. Because that's not affordable. Yeah. And you're trying to get people to adopt animal. You know, it's just not affordable. And so, and like when I used to originally was doing TNR, I was doing it on my own and having to find vets that would do it, and it wasn't allowed in Midland at the time, and so it was hard to find a vet. And I was spending upwards of $150 to $180 per cat. That's not a sustainable model when there are so many. And so so Fix West Texas is a low cost spay neuter vaccination clinic. And I mean, it costs, when you get the city voucher in combination with their low rates, it's just dollars is what it costs you. They're amazing. She's amazing. She's my superhero.
I mean, we found our dog eating out of a dumpster.
Behind this building.
Yeah.
Behind this building.
It was actually in the alley behind Ivy Cottage.
Yeah.
And he thought it was an actual fox.
I thought it was a fox. I hadn't seen one yet.
Okay.
But
we always thought it was
foxes.
like the big ears. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's a dog. Stop the car.
Yeah, she was like, stop the car. She jumped out.
He was like, that dog's not going to let you pick it up. I'm like, watch me. And I walked over and I snatched him and he goes, and I was like, I love you.
He wasn't real committed.
No. Like, I love you.
You're a huge cat lover. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I've seen your Instagram stories. Are those cats, that's at your house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I love cats and dogs.
Okay.
I equal opportunity, you know, any animal really. But cats they're just with my lifestyle and liking to travel, they're just easier. Yeah. But so, yes, the cats that are outside, those are outside my house. So there was girlfriend. She's a tabby. She showed up skinny as could be.
Wait, that's the cat's name is Girlfriend?
Girlfriend, yes.
I love that they all have names.
Yeah, she was so sassy. But yeah, she was so skinny. And after she started kind of showing up regularly for about a week or two, I said, okay, I'm just going to get you fixed. And so I trapped her because there was no way I could touch her. She hated me. She hissed at me. So I trapped her and I got her fixed. And about 2 weeks later, I was looking out my backyard window and I just see these 3 kittens in the yard.
Aww.
Oh.
I'm like, well, those are cute, but where the hell did they come from? And then I turn around and she's girlfriend's nursing them. And so what I realized is she was nursing these kittens when she came to me. And so I took her away from her babies, not knowing, got her fixed, and then everyone was fine. And so I was able to get one of them adopted out with one of my employees that moved to Seattle. So I'm going to get to see him in October because I'm going to go out there. But the other 2, I wasn't able to adopt them out, and they weren't like super tame at the time. So they're fixed. And then James Bond, the one, he's a tuxedo cat. He showed up about 2 years ago. I was like, that's fine. So yes, I've got this little colony of 4 that they're all fixed. They're all vaccinated. And thankfully, my neighbors are all kind of in the same mindset. Where we're all super supportive. And I think it's just a lot easier for people to support when they know that you're not just a feeder.
Yeah.
So, right, like they know that you're right. And there are not any other babies that are coming out of this. They're not going to reproduce.
They know you're not trying to attract them.
Right, exactly.
Just to increase the population. I feel like, in was it 101 Dalmatians? When all the dogs are like talking to each other? Mm-hmm. I feel like that's probably what the cats are doing. They're like, she'll help y'all.
I do think that they do that. And so, yes, absolutely. There used to be this male, Pops. He's still in the neighborhood. I see him sometimes. But he played around a lot, but he always brought the moms to me.
Aww.
Yeah, it was really sweet, but it was also a big fat headache, because especially this was before TNR was like a thing in Midland. There weren't any like vouchers, and so it was so expensive. I'd get the mom fixed, I'd get the babies fixed, and get them adopted out if I could. But he was my white whale, and we caught him. The drop trap that I posted the other day, we were never able to get him in a traditional trap. So I purchased this $200 drop trap just for Pops, and that's how we were able to get him. And I took him to the vet and got him fixed, and he's never come into my yard again. He's still mad. It's been 3 years. It's fine.
He's like,
I get
man,
it.
girl, you ruined my game.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Way to go, Pops.
Pops. Pops is a busy man.
Yeah, Rolling Stone.
That's a perfect name for him.
So you do host other events though too, right?
Yes.
So
The charcuterie class.
Charcuterie class. We have to stay on track with all of your events on bestofmidlandtx.com.
Yes.
I appreciate you guys for posting those, and it's super. It's user friendly. It's really easy to send you guys those events, and it's not something that I put off because it's going to be a pain.
What other events do you have on?
Coming up, we're going to have. So we're doing 1 trivia a month because what we have figured out is that our clientele, they like themed trivia. So we did The Office last month. We're going to do Friends next month.
We're going.
So I'll send you guys. I'm going to try to work on all those September graphics very soon and get them to you all. And then we have Bleak Art, Audrey.
Yeah.
She did her art show with us last summer of 2021. We have one coming up with her mid-September. It's going to be fantastic.
So talented.
I adore her. She actually used to be a bartender for us.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so it's and I love having her mural on our hallway and just her art on our
pretty.
wall. And so she's been working this past 3 or 4 weeks, just gathering her ideas, but also her art and making it. And so that'll be mid-September.
We tried to talk to her about coming on the podcast. She was like, I'm just so shy. Yeah. I'm like, that's okay.
Reach out.
I'm shy.
Yeah, she's shy, but we get a couple cocktails down her, she'll be just fine.
Perfect.
But she has been just super stacked.
Good.
with projects, basically.
That's awesome.
And so that's probably another.
Yeah.
All right, let's change the subject a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about the pandemic. I had read that you were pretty vocal about the shutdowns and the differences between bars rules and restaurants rules, and you were shut down
6
twice,
months. Yes.
right? So, explain what was going on at that time. I mean, obviously, a lot of businesses were,
Well, anytime I talk about my response and my anger during that time period, I always want to make something very clear.
Sure.
I was not a COVID denier. Right. I did not take COVID lightly at all. In fact, like we started doing protective measures before anyone was shut down the first time. I was just kind of listening to what people in other cities were doing because it was hitting these other cities before it was hitting us. And so we started doing that. And then we voluntarily closed before we were told to shut down because it was like, I didn't need anyone to tell me that felt like the right thing to do at the time. It felt like the right thing to do because it was something brand new that none of us had experienced before. We didn't know what was going on. And it felt like the right choice for our community was just to be a little bit proactive and safer rather than sorry, right?
Sure.
And so that was no issue. That first shutdown was not a problem for me. Where I started getting frustrated was when things started to reopen.
Okay.
Because of course we weren't expecting when we decided to close our doors, we weren't expecting it to be for months on end.
Yeah.
It was more to kind of like let's assess, let's figure out the best ways to move forward. And everyone was being allowed to be to move forward, except for us, except for bars.
Yeah.
And that, yes, I resented that because you can't give me any rationale that tells me that bars were the reason for a global pandemic. I don't believe that. And I honestly don't feel like our governor believed that. I think that people were just kind of reacting and maybe it felt like a bit of a scapegoat to say we're doing something.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel that keeping us shut down was making the community safer.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Right. If we were truly, if serving at a bar top was the cause of the pandemic, and
it was all linked back to that,
of course, then I would have just said, then that's what we have to do. That's our bad luck. And so with the second shutdown, the anger was again that it was just us, just this one tiny industry, and that there was no warning. And so we were allowed to order all of our inventory and have all of this product come in.
I never thought about that.
And now we're just sitting on it because I learned by tweet. I woke up I went to bed running a bar. I woke up to this tweet. And so it was this feeling of just being very dismissed. And we couldn't get people to return our emails. We couldn't get people to return our phone calls. It was as if we didn't matter as business owners and taxpayers and people who have bills just like everyone else and people who have employees that they care about just like everyone else. And that we weren't given any benchmarks. We weren't given any kind of idea of when. And so I would run into, everything was open and people were flying and they were going to gyms and they were getting their nails done.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could, and restaurants were going just like nothing and it really ever happened. And they had bar programs and they had cocktails. And so it just all just seemed like insanity. And it was just incredibly stressful. And just hard mentally.
Yeah.
And then, I would have people run into me and say, well, don't you think you should change your concept? And I was just like, God, I hope not, but you were kind of wondering.
Easier said than done.
It's way easier. That's spoken not a business owner. It's just so easy. And so it was
you can't just turn into a restaurant overnight.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they meant. Why don't you just be a restaurant that also has a bar?
Right, exactly. I'm like, okay, well, I need you to come and see my space first of all. Right. That's like a 6-month project right there. And I don't want a restaurant. I want the blue door, And so it was really difficult. But my strategy for sanity is I don't do well not being active. And so yeah, I was vocal. I wanted to communicate. Yeah, I wanted to communicate first of all with just our customer base and I wanted to communicate in some way to make other people hear us because it felt very very like not forgotten by the community because they didn't forget us at all, but just by the people that were telling me the higher ups.
powers
Yes,
that be.
exactly. But Instagram actually really helped me during that time period because I was able to not just communicate about my anger because I didn't do it that often. You know what I mean?
Right.
Still communicate with our customer base and these people that we had known for 8 years and do like fun little tutorials just like when we were running our business. You know what I mean? And kind of like keeping that connection going and just I think the common theme of this podcast has just been how supportive the community is. I mean, it was so ridiculous, and I'll try not to cry because it sounds silly, but
if you cry, I'll cry. So
it was just like we had all of this fruit because we had ordered all of this inventory.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what else to do with our time. So we just went up there and we juiced. And people, like, they just came and they lined up outside and we leave their juice. They didn't need juice. You know what I mean?
But they wanted
to support in some way. And it was monetarily, it was, not that significant in the grand scheme of things. It was more the showing up, like that kind of support. Like they're just beautiful people. Like, just like delivering their grapefruit juice in their back seat because we're trying to keep a distance.
Yeah.
And I'm
Right. Pop the trunk.
Right, exactly. It was such a weird time. But
The Midland community is amazing.
they are amazing. They are amazing.
people
That
pull
they were-
together. Yeah.
Yeah, to be able to make something really beautiful out of something simple. Like I love them.
All right, so let's talk booze.
Yes.
I love your quizzes because I'm always like, oh, I know this.
You should have your own show.
I don't know. I like to get in and out and be done. Stories, 15 seconds, I'm good.
Let me pitch you on a show.
Okay.
Because one, the moral of this whole episode has been good ideas come from traveling
That's
around the
absolutely
world.
correct, yes.
And I have done none of that. I haven't been anywhere.
I took you to Maine.
Tijuana once. I was there.
Oh, bless.
No big deal. I don't think I learned, any life. But okay, so let me pitch you on a. We would say television show, but these days nobody watches television. This is a YouTube show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's me, you, Terra, and we just travel
And Pops.
and pops.
And Pops.
Bring pops
Absolutely.
too. Yeah.
And James Bond.
And James.
You would travel to various countries,
Mm-hmm.
and you would partake in the drinking cultures.
Okay, so Anthony Bourdain, but with drinks.
Yes.
Okay.
Strictly booze. Mm-hmm. Okay. None of that
like it.
food stuff. And it's just
He would not eat the weird stuff.
yeah. I'm not eating weird stuff. That's not happening. But I'll drink whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's easier.
I learned how to say. You learn how to say cheers in whatever language
Mm-hmm.
they speak.
But what if the cocktail had egg in it?
Many cocktails have egg.
Yes.
Right.
But you're so anti-egg.
Yeah, but just don't tell me it's in there. That's all. I don't have to watch you make it. You know what I mean?
I'll make you a mayonnaise cocktail
Gross.
with an egg froth.
That's so terrible.
sounds terrible.
No, you'd hate the most. They're flips, and we might have one on our fall menu. So
Ooh.
most cocktails have just the egg white, but a flip has the entire
Nope.
egg in it. No, absolutely no, not for you. Okay. So eggnog is out of the question.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to this
Okay,
YouTube
sorry.
show.
So we're doing
Going off the rails here with eggs. Gross. Sorry, egg industry. Okay, so
This
I
episode
think-
brought to you
I
by
think,
Eggs
like,
Best.
you have various options, right? You can have a whole show on, the history of people love that stuff.
They do.
The history of cocktails, the history of alcohol in itself.
No, I would love that the most because that is anytime we go anywhere, like I was telling you earlier, and it's still the case to a degree,
Yeah.
that the first thing I would look at is restaurants. But now it's the first thing I look at is bars.
Right.
And always definitely wanting to go to bars that are similar to ours where we can get ideas to bring back home. But also if we're somewhere like we went to Oaxaca or something, there are items like there's a pulque there. It's a very, are you familiar with that? It's kind of like it's made out of corn. It's fermented.
Oh, I
but
thought you
it's
meant
very,
the tuna. No, okay. Got it.
I thought too. I was like, oh, I know.
I was like, that's Hawaii.
It's kind of like frothy, like beer, and we would never do that in Midland and bring that back. But yes, I like to learn when I'm traveling to bring back, but I also just like to drink whatever they drink locally. Yeah. And so
I heard about this alcohol, and then I went and bought it because I was like, Ryan, you got to step up your game. And it's cachaça, right? Is that what I think? Right?
cachaça, yeah,
And it's made from sugarcane.
yes.
And it's gross. I thought, oh, this is going to be delicious. It's a clear
sugar?
Yeah, I thought it was you know,
It was just going to be like simple syrup.
I thought it was simple syrup. I was like, oh, this is gonna be delicious. And I was like, oh, this is not good. Same with like ouzo, right? And I was like, oh, okay.
Ouzo's awful.
I was like,
'Cause I don't like anything that's like licorice or anise flavored, really. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't love ouzo. But there are people that adore it. I'm just not one of them.
Yeah, they're in Greece.
Yes,
Like I only like Jaeger and a Jaeger bomb.
No. Jaeger bomb's kind of a little overrated.
But that's also like a younger.
Right.
Or babies. Do people still drink those?
I think I went to a bar and was like, hey, let me get a shot of Jaeger. And somebody was like, okay, well, I'm going to give you Fernet.
Nice. How did you like Fernet?
It was much better. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that supposed to be good, like after you've had too much to eat?
Fernet, I could see that it would be used as like a digestif for sure.
Yeah.
Fernet is like you were talking about going to bars that feel like they're industry bars, like bars for like the bartenders when they get off.
Yeah.
Fernet is like the industry drink, a beer with a shot of Fernet. But yeah, Fernet, I mean, that was a good bartender sub because Fernet and Jaeger are in the same category called Amaros, which are these very bitter liqueurs. So
interesting.
Yeah. I never knew because we don't carry Jaeger, but we carry a few Amaros. When we opened the Blue Door, we were kind of, you're wanting your vision or your motto or whatever. And we said, okay, so the first thing we want to focus on is quality. So we're not going to have the $4 bottle of rum. Mm-hmm. We're not going to have, bottled sweet and sour, those kinds of things. So that decision was super easy. But then the next thing we said is that we don't want to be pretentious because you can be pretentious in a Manhattan bar. That's totally fine because you're going to have a population that wants that. They want it to be kind of exclusive and kind of know what to expect when they get there. They're going to want it to be just a very specific crowd. But we live in West Texas. And if we got too narrow in that exclusivity, there's not enough of a population to do that, and so we wanted
demand.
Right, exactly. And so it needed to be something that was approachable as well. It's where I can make these things for you that are more elevated and more like what I would drink and that I would love to make for you, but I can also do this for you as well. And there are limits to that, though. Like I said, like we don't have Jaeger. Like there are some things, like we don't have, like things like Pucker and like items like that. We don't have that.
Yeah, I forgot.
And so if someone comes in and says, can you make a like a watermelon, martini or whatever they ask for, I can't because I don't have that product. But I know what you're wanting. Mm-hmm. You're wanting something sweet. You're wanting something fruity. So I can make something that you'll like that is going to be much more like honest from my point of view, like cleaner ingredients, fresher ingredients, and things like that. But I would say that the cocktail that I think is most, I don't know if it's overrated, it's just over-ordered, is just a vodka soda.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that doesn't taste that great. Mm-hmm. Now, I get that if you are, if you're seeking gains or, you're trying, whatever,
right.
Like, I get it. It's low carb. It's no carb, pretty much. It's no sugar. So I totally get that. And then also from a hangover perspective, you're going to feel better the next day. So totally not judging that.
As long as it's not $4 vodka.
Right, exactly. But I'm like, at least let me make you a Chilton. You know what I mean? At least let me add like a little, a little lemon juice. You're still going to be no carb, a little bit of salt. And so there's some flavor and it just feels nicer. And I think that's just an easy thing for people to order. And I get that. Like you come into a bar, especially if you haven't been to, like it's kind of your first experience going to more of a cocktail bar, it can be intimidating. Mm-hmm. And you see all these things on the back bar and you don't know what any of them are. And so you feel the bartender's like, what do you want? And you feel kind of panicked and you just say like, just give me a vodka soda.
Rushed.
You know what I mean? And you don't want to seem silly and you don't want to order the wrong thing. And so you know that they can make that. So there's no judgment. I'm just like, let me help you out here because we can achieve the same goals, but have it be a more pleasant experience for you or just a better experience for you.
Give us some examples of some underrated that like nobody's ordering, but man, you've got to try these.
Well, the first one is what I brought you, which is the Vouqueret. And I feel like a lot of people in Midland who have been regulars at the Blue Door, they order it, but it's still something that I don't see on cocktail menus from bars that I think should try putting it on there. But again, there are challenges with it. how to pronounce it and what the ingredients are. But I think if you can get that guest to try it once, they'll continue to order it. And then another one that people don't order is a Mai Tai. And it is because they've been burned by terrible Mai Tais.
Yeah.
By Mai Tais that really don't have anything to do with the actual recipe of a Mai Tai. Mai Tais are not supposed to be orange, pink, neon. Really? Right, exactly, right. And they're not supposed to come in hurricane glasses. And a Mai Tai, when traditionally made, is a super simple cocktail. It's basically a rum sour. Okay. But you're using a bit more kind of tropical ingredients. So you would use an aged rum is best. Mm-hmm. Then you need something sour. And so you'll use freshly squeezed lemon juice. But then you need something sweet. And so with Mai Tai, instead of using just like a normal simple syrup like you would use, you use orgeat, which is an almond-flavored syrup. Kind of tastes a bit like amaretto. That's used in a ton of tiki drinks.
Okay.
And then you use a little bit of an orange, like a triple sec, but like a Cointreau, something like that. Yeah. And it's going to punch up the alcohol content some and just give it a little bit more of a depth of flavor. But it's a clean cocktail. It is not overly sweet by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it lends itself a little tart. But anytime we have an event where I can make traditional Mai Tais and serve it to a crowd, I do, because I know that I'm about to convert some people because they love it every single time. Yeah, I've only had
a Mai Tai in Hawaii, and I remember it was like very sweet.
Right, and that's just they're catering to
the tourists
to it. Exactly what they think, and that's really too bad because I think a lot of people are becoming a lot more educated about drinks now and want not that super sweet cocktail, but I mean I'm sure that they've weighed the. Yeah. They know their clientele, more than I do, of course, and so
every place is different.
Yeah, it's either Hawaii or every tiki bar.
I would love to. I mean, there's no way. I don't think.
No, exclusive.
Yes,
you dropping an exclusive on us right now?
Like a tiki bar, that would be so much
cute.
fun. But I do feel that it might be a little too niche.
Another concept for you. Just throwing it out there. I'm in marketing, right? So, because a number of years ago, I did a little bit of marketing work for a place called Kahunaville.
Kahunaville.
I remember that.
Yeah. And they had it was a tourist bar, obviously. But they had you can order the punch bowl for like a group. This one was a toilet bowl.
No.
It was a porcelain toilet bowl. Mm-hmm. It said Kahunaville on there. And a couple straws, $25. It's yours to keep. It was like a collectible.
That's so insane.
So just throwing it out there. I mean, sky's the limit.
Okay, so when we open our tiki bar, we can do tiki toilets.
Tiki toilets.
Tiki toilets. Oh my gosh. We just need the capital, really. I mean,
we got the idea.
This is a think tank right here. Whoa, we just need okay. I'm moving that over there. We just need the funds. Just came to me.
Oh my God.
Here's the title. Okay. Man versus booze.
Man versus booze. Oh. I love that.
Right? Okay. All right. Listen, YouTube, don't steal that.
Don't steal this idea.
Okay. Food Network, that's not free. That's mine and hers and yours. Man versus booze. All right, let's do it. Well, listen, we're not going to keep you here all night. We really appreciate you stopping by and educating us.
Oh, my pleasure. I love talking about cocktails and liquor and all of those kinds of things.
And kitties.
If there are musicians who would be interested in playing at the Blue Door, small groups, like I'm thinking 1 to 2 people, but we would love that. I would love for them to reach out to me.
Like a nice little acoustic set.
Yes, absolutely. I
have someone in mind.
Yes, tell them to reach out to me. The best way, really, they can reach out to me social media, Instagram or Facebook. I'm much more active on Instagram, but they could also go through my website because there's a way for them to contact me through there. But I'd love to start creating a bank of musicians so that when we do get this kind of set up, that I'll be able to start booking things right away.
Awesome.
Yes.
Love it.
But yeah, I mean, just the best way to connect with me, the best way to learn about the Blue Door and what we're about, if you're not familiar with that, is through Instagram stories. That is where I'm the most active because I just feel that I get a lot more, I'm able to interact with people a lot more.
Right.
And it's more engaging with people kind of responding to quizzes and responding to questions. And, it's no fun to just project my voice out there if people aren't enjoying it and engaging with me. And they do it really well in stories. And so you'll get all of the information about our upcoming events through Instagram stories, but you also will get cocktail lessons. Yes, that's
and again, when you're reaching out to the Blue Door, you're talking to Erica.
Yes.
You're talking to the source.
Yes. I am the one that answers all of your questions and reads all of those messages on Facebook, on website, on Instagram. You'll be talking directly to me.
Nice.
Awesome. And feel free to use Man versus Booze on your Instagram stories. I mean, that's for you.
I think it's going to come up sooner than later, I do believe.
That's right, YouTube.
Hey, good cocktail name.
Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, listen.
I feel like it's going to be a strong cocktail.
Yes,
What?
absolutely, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll come drink it. We'll make some content.
Perfect. Love it. Oh, man. Like, sometimes I just hit a home run,
Yeah.
It's one
like
in
when
a
you met
thousand.
me.
Oh, yeah. How do you hit a home run every day? I don't know. Anyways, thank you so much. Check out the Blue Door, bluedoor.com. TheBlueDoor.com?
The Blue Door Midland.com.
Oh, the Blue Door
I think
Midland.com.
the bluedoor.com is like a sex store.
Oh.
Yes. So
It's like the White House.
yes.
.com versus whitehouse.gov.
Yes.
Man, those people are
Yeah, it's bluedoormidland.com. And it's
could
linked in
both
my
both.
Instagram too. You taught me that.
Oh.
Yeah.
always, but address
Yep.
first and foremost.
Yes, I did that too. Yes.
Hey, I
Addison.
mean,
Look at you.
awesome. That's staying in. All right. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. All right.